so far? Awesome. How many people have seen Twisters? How many people have seen it twice? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm embarrassed. I'll put my hand in. I think I saw it 7 times in the theater. So
I watched it this morning.
I watched it on the way to work. No, appreciate you being here. We've just got about 25 minutes or so to do this because Sean and Emily are very busy. But we couldn't do the Weather Festival this year without talking about Twisters a little bit. So I got just a few slides to kind of set the stage and kind of, what I want to do is just showcase all the involvement that people here in the local weather community had in making the movie as good as it was. Twisters was shot entirely in Oklahoma. And these are the dates back in May through July of 2023. They had to stop in mid-July because there was an actors strike. So they had to stop filming, and they came back in December and finished up. That created all kinds of issues. We can get into that if you have questions about that. They filmed all over the state. They were clustered around central Oklahoma, but places like El Reno and Fairview and Oriana and up around southwest of Bartlesville. I'm forgetting the town name. Chickasha was really featured in the movie. Oklahoma City, downtown Oklahoma City was in there. And there is a link there. If you want that link later, there's a whole website that gives you all the details on the filming locations. If you really want to geek out and go visit it. We got Kevin Kelleher with us here today. He was the tornado consultant for the movie. If you're happy about the science of the movie, like I am, they did a really good job with it. It's mostly because of Kevin Kelleher and Sean Waugh, who's also here. We're going to be talking to both of them. There were people in the building that were background actors in the movie, so I got a chance to be a background actor. 3.4 seconds from my nose up, don't blink, you'll miss it. Sean's in the background in a couple of scenes. Kevin had a lot more scenes that were cut, but he's in the movie theater there. And other people, students, Kelton, who works at the Storm Prediction Center in Oriana, were both in the same scene that I was in the National Weather Service office, and Derek Stratman, who works here in the building, he was actually in one of the rescue workers in Chickasha there. So that's kind of cool. Our office was the prototype for the National Weather Service office in the movie, so they made several visits here. So little things most people would never notice, but the font and the lettering on the outside of the forecast office as the kids walk on the tour is exactly identical to ours. The display that's in the office is identical to ours. There's the director, Lee Isaac Chung, that's in our office on one of the visits. We actually got to do a training day and a tour for the cast and crew back in May of 2023. So before they ever started filming, we had not all the cast, but most of the main cast came. I got to do a class for them. Sean got to talk to them for a long time, and I think they would have stayed here all day if we would have left. They loved it. Kevin was here, so that was a cool experience. And that's my favorite picture of the whole class is A.Z. Edgar Jones there. She took notes the entire time. She was super into the meteorology and learning about it. Other people in the Weather Center that were heavily involved are our communications team at NOAA and NSSL, Kelly Purtle and James Vernan and Wes Moody. Things you'll never think about in the movie, but if you see a NOAA logo or a Weather Service logo, Universal Pictures had to get permission to use that in the movie. So these people, we had to go through all the paperwork to give them permission. We actually set up a display at the Hollywood premiere back in July. Sean actually outfitted a bunch of trucks for that the stars rode in and got on the red carpet with. That's a real phased array radar that's in the end credits. So there's so much behind the scenes stuff. There's several people, I hear the story over and over and it grows, but several people were involved in these notebooks. When you see Kate's notebooks in the barn when she's got all the equations for making her chemicals or whatever, that's all real science. And Sean was involved, Kevin was involved, but the 3 grad students who actually did that, Rachel, Maddie, and Emily, that's their writing. So they wanted a real student's handwriting in the notebook. So their attention to detail was pretty incredible. We had our Channel 4 TV meteorologist involved, so Mike Morgan was in there for a few seconds, Damian Lotus, who has abandoned us to go to Pennsylvania, and Emily was in there. Emily was in there a lot more than it looked like she was. We could talk about that. She actually had some more time on screen that's in the deleted scenes. Other people, of course, the college here, the School of Meteorology, the Atmospheric and Geographic Science colleges, Brad Elston and the Oklahoma Mesonet on Kate's Barn, that whole set there, there's Easter eggs galore back in the background from the mezzanine. Old equipment, old rain gauges. That's Kate's bedroom right there on the right, and Sean, I think, contributed something. I mean, textbooks. Every textbook is real. All those storm chasing pictures pretty much are real. They didn't just slap this together. This is amazing detail that they put into this, and there are tons of storm chasers. Almost every storm chaser you see that doesn't have a speaking part in the movie is probably a real storm chaser, a background actor. So there was tons and tons of those, and there's people I've missed, I know. So, okay, we're going to throw it open for questions. We don't want to just talk to you, but we want to hear any questions you have. Sean was intimately involved in the movie. Sean actually got to, three of the cast members came back out this past April, and went storm chasing. So he took them storm chasing. Emily, of course, was involved in the movie and has some cool stories to tell. Kevin Kelleher was on the set most of the time and did a lot of work on that. He also worked on the original Twister. So we've got like 15 minutes probably to talk, and they could talk the rest of the day, either one of them, about their experiences. But I just want to open it up. If anybody has any specific questions about the movie, any particular scenes, was this accurate, was this not accurate, anything you want to know about the movie at all. If we don't know the answer, we'll make it up. But here's your chance. These are people that were intimately involved with movies production. So, yes.
Even though they were in the suck zone, and they were suck in, especially like they're, where you're hiding and
I'll just repeat the question and I'll hand it to whoever, but that's a great question. But yeah, she talked about it in the original Twister, the tornado like threw things. It was throwing things out of it. These tornadoes spoiler alert, it was much more realistic as far as how the air flows into tornadoes. I know, I'm sorry. But I don't know, who wants to address it?
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin's probably got some things to say here, but like one of the funniest things, everybody remembers the cow scene from the original movie, right? That's not how physics works. If the cow is flying over the truck would not still be on the ground, right? But I mean, I think we've learned a lot in the 30 years since that movie came out, and you see a lot of that depicted in the movie. Kevin can speak a lot to that because he was intimately involved in how we got to that. So there are a lot of things that we've learned, and also it's 30 years of improvement for industrial light batting to get better at it, and they did a lot of homework trying to make this as authentic as possible.
Yeah, that is a great question. So after the first movie, I made about a 45-minute talk taking clips from the first movie of all the things that were not correct meteorological, and gave that to the American Meteorological Society. They asked that if I would give it at the annual meeting. The annual meeting that year was right in the back doorstep of Universal Studios, so I chose not to do that because we wanted to maintain a good partnership. But we were not as involved in the first one. Although we were involved at many levels, we didn't have the benefit of actually seeing the graphics once they were created. But this one was different. We called in, had a chance to look at what they were doing, and this one was 2.5 years back from the very beginning, from the very first script that we helped rewrite over and over. The first one, we were writing it as we were going along a few days before they were actually filming the piece. So it was a different involvement. Yeah, that was a very good observation. That's one of the things we pointed out. It would have been nice to have them in the right direction.
That is a great question. It's still not completely realistic. I mean, a tornado is still not, it's not a vacuum cleaner hose, so the people being sucked into the air is not, that's probably a little Hollywoody, but still, it's much better. The most striking thing was when, I hope everybody's seen the movie by now, under the overpass where a large piece of debris hits one of the people taking cover under the overpass. Super close. Yeah. A long way. Yes?
In the movie, are there any real Oklahoma storms that aren't computer generated, or were they mostly computer generated?
All computer generated. There are some sky shots that were blended in with the CGI. and they actually hired a crew while they were filming to go out, and they got some great video of real tornadoes and real events that we used sort of as a model for some of the things they did. But Sean and I and others provided all kinds of background, real tornadoes. So every single tornado in the movie had a reference tornado, they call it, so it was something that really happened. Yes, but it was all CGI as far as the tornadoes go.
But the movie was so good. I remember the first time we saw it, I came out thinking there were scenes in there where I couldn't tell the difference between CGI. But there's a few key scenes that there's real clouds, real peace. I think the things they really wanted to film, it was too dangerous to film.
Yeah, and one little Easter egg that kind of feeds off of that, like Kevin said, all the tornadoes are based on real events that have happened throughout our history of recording tornadoes. In the original movie, there's a brief image where there's a radar image that shows up after they launch Dorothy into the tornado. You may not know this, that radar image is completely wrong. It's clear air data, they grabbed it at the last second, there's not even a storm on the radar. And any good meteorologist knows that, like that's one of the things, they're like, that's wrong. So this movie, all of the radar imagery that you see is real radar from real events that are actually documented in our history. I hand-picked all of those radar images for the entire movie, line by line, frame by frame, scene by scene, so that if anybody screenshots it and is like, is this real? It is. And the special effects guys that kind of create those graphics, I asked them once, how did you create radar images before? You had somebody like me telling you what to use, and he said we would set up a camera and throw confetti in front of the camera, take a picture, and then colorize the confetti. And I'm like, you're never doing that again. So, there's a lot of little fun details in it.
Yeah, actually, in the first movie, the Nexrad images that we had at the time, the software to display them was very complicated. We didn't have all the open systems, architecture, and all that. We tried really hard to give them, the images were recorded on these little tapes, which were stored in Nashville, North Carolina. We had to go back and get those tapes and finally write things that would match up with what they were trying to do, and then try to send it to them. And they tried to read it. They didn't have the tools to do it, so they literally gave up. We didn't know they gave up until we actually saw the movie ourselves, and we saw these images. What in the world? Well, it was clear. It's what we call clear air. And clear air is basically the atmosphere reflecting from bugs and little things that have no clouds in them at all. And then they rotated at a high speed. So you saw this spinning of clear air, and that's what they did. But of course, back then, everybody wasn't as educated as they are today. That would not fly in Oklahoma today, right? You guys all have seen that on radar.
Yeah, if you look closely at the movie, if they're chasing the storm in the early stages of its development, it's an early stages of development storm on radar. If it's a supercell with the hook, it's a supercell on radar. So there's little details that are just amazing if you know that. So okay, yes sir.
I'm curious about the calling the curve. Is that something that you actually knows in research about anticipating a tornado or
Yeah, polyacrylate. That is the same thing that is in diapers. And so that was part of, there are certain things when you're a consultant that are negotiable. That polyacrylate affecting the tornado is not negotiable. That was the thing they came up with. However, throughout the entire script rewrites, there are about 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 of them, anytime we point out that this wasn't quite right, here's some options, they would always move towards the science. But that was one of the things that they were not going to negotiate. So the idea was that stuff absorbs between 100 to 1,000 times each weight. That's a real thing. And so fuel for storms are the moisture, right, the liquid. So if you can absorb the liquid and take it out, then you can perhaps diminish the strength of the storm. Then when they put the sodium iodide into the cloud seeding material in there, the idea was anything that was already evaporating in the atmosphere, the moisture, would then become liquid, so that polyacrylate could then absorb more liquid. So that was the scientific idea that we had to back in after they gave us the script.
I just thought of something that just dawned on me. It's unfortunate timing that Twisters put that kind of idea out there, because now there are people that really think that meteorologists There's a difference between Hollywood, blockbuster, and real meteorology. So if you did pure meteorology through this, like, you know, we know as Oklahomans, who are all these people that are like, I don't know where to go for a tornado, like, they're like, help! And it's like, everyone would know where to go. All those events would have been canceled at the time. Like, people would have been in their safe spots, right? Because Oklahomans know what to do. But if everyone did that, that'd be a really boring movie. So, right? So there has to be some drama.
Yeah, and there's a deeper question here that's come up a lot after this, which is, okay, but could you, right? Like, is weather modification, is destroying a tornado something that we could do because it is so destructive, right? And everybody here has experienced that, I'm sure. You know, what if we could stop those? And there's a larger question there that feeds off of that. And one is the issue of scale, right? Like, what they do in the movie is not at all realistic. You would need like literal tons of this material to even attempt to have an effect. But beyond that, should we? Even if we could, is it a good idea to play God, right? And the problem with that is that everything we experience as weather, every raindrop, every tornado, every hurricane, every hailstorm, every lightning, is the Earth attempting to balance energy. It's too hot at the equator, it's too cold at the poles. It's attempting to mitigate that, right? If you throw a wrench into that engine, it will find a release point somewhere. I think that was another, wasn't that like Geostorm? I'm pretty sure that. Yeah. This is Twisters 3, just in case anybody's not just kidding. But yeah, no, we absolutely should not be doing that because it will 100% cause more problems than you want.
Hopefully we have a couple more questions. I'm gonna give Emily a second just to talk about. Emily's in the movie. If you've seen the movie, she's on TV as Kate comes out of the bathroom and the truck stop there and doing Emily things. There's a couple of cool stories about that. Emily things. That's what it is. Yeah, weather credit, that's what it is. That's the professional term. A couple of things. Talk about how that happened, how that particular clip ended up in the movie, and then talk about what they didn't see in the movie that you were involved in, just real quick.
I mean, if you blink, you'll miss it, but I'm just so happy to be in it because I'm such a Twister fan, and then to be in Twisters, it helped inspire my career. So then to be in the reboot is just a dream come true how it all worked out. I heard about, like many Oklahomans, that Twisters was happening, right? And it's going to be in Oklahoma, and I was just secretly hoping I'm going to weasel my way in, even if I'm like cool in the background or something. And it actually worked out perfectly. I mean, I'd like to thank Channel 4's because of our awesome capabilities as meteorologists, but thank you. But mainly it's because NBC Universal Studios is running it, so they chose the NBC affiliate. So seriously, how lucky am I that it worked out? I'm working at the TV station here. I don't know, it all worked out. So then there were auditions, and I actually did audition because I wanted it that bad. And I've never auditioned for a movie before, but they do something called a SNAP. You're supposed to say your name, your age, your height, and maybe a few more things. And I did that, but then I threw in all the reasons why I'm a hardcore Twister fan. And I went into detail about how I had a Twister-themed birthday party, and I dressed up like the finger of God, and how one of my high school friends happened to know the agent of Bill Paxton, and so Bill Paxton had a video shout out at my wedding. It was a surprise. It was amazing. My wedding getaway vehicle was the Interceptor, Timber's car. Yeah, that much of a nerd. I thought I was going to scare them away because when they came to film, one of the directors was there, and I talked their head off. I was like trying to get all the information, like, what's the story about? What's going on? They couldn't tell me, of course. But afterwards, I was like, oh, I think I freaked them out about how much I'm geeking out here about Twister. Yeah, but thankfully it worked in my favor, and they were like, oh, we want to add a part for this crazy lady. So, originally they were going to have Boone, the storm chaser, that's on the tornado wrangler side, and he was going to have a big crush on me, I guess, and have my headshot in his car and like kiss it before storm chasing or something like that. At least you probably know more than me. He did. Well, okay. So then I couldn't believe it. I didn't even know about most of this stuff because it was done on the side, and they
for maybe one or two more quick questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so the question, if anybody didn't hear it, was do we have the augers on the actual trucks? And we have a number of vehicles that are out on the circle drive. If you're curious what the real world vehicles look like are that we do like the real tornado signs with. There are a few people that are private citizens that just chase for their own and do have, I'm going to call them modified vehicles that have some, they don't have augers, but there's spikes that go in. And the idea behind it is that it would anchor the vehicle to the ground and then thus make it a little bit safer to be able to. Full disclaimer, don't anybody really, really bad. Those vehicles, and this is something those people don't talk about a lot, have limitations, right? It will only hold to a certain point, and those are usually the lower end tornadoes. And I don't care how well anchored the vehicle is to the ground, if it gets hit with a tree at 150 miles an hour, it's probably not going to matter, right? So there are a few people that do that. We don't do that at the National Severe Storms Laboratory. There's not a whole lot of benefit to it. Our understanding of how tornadoes work doesn't need us to drive into the tornado. It's actually doesn't really serve the point, right? We're better served by surrounding it and collecting observations from the outside in a more comprehensive sense to try to better understand how those situations work. And I gotta run because we have another weather balloon launch coming up. But for questions, in case you guys don't mention them here, if you go to the National Severe Storms Laboratory, nssl.gov. There's actually a number of videos that we've created that explain a lot about twisters and NOAA's involvement. Things that are real, things that aren't real, that kind of thing. They're really, really great videos that we put together that will answer a lot of these questions. Like, do fire tornadoes exist? And so there's a lot of really good
And you can also get to the same place by going noaa.gov/twisters. It's still there too. So, Sean's got to go. Emily, is there any other last minute question for Emily or Kevin or me or anything else before we break? We're going to do this again at 1 o'clock. So, any questions? Yes. Just talked about this.
It's totally dangerous in a real life situation. I would understand that you're kind of screwed in that situation.
If you're in that, the question was, would you really get under an overpass? Would we get under an overpass if there was a tornado? If you're in that situation, there's no good option. So, I could feel their panic and their dilemma that they had there because what are you going to do? The car's going to get hit. Are you safer? There's probably overpasses out there that would be safer, but yeah, there's no good answer to that. They did what they had to do. And I think the example is set very well that that's not a good idea. Thank y'all so much for coming.